This is the talk show that takes a no-holds-barred approach to politics, where truth and integrity are the standard and the Constitution honored. From Renaissance Studios, this is Champion News Talk Radio.
Good morning and welcome to a very special edition of Champion News Talk Radio, brought to you by championnews.net, your choice for the conservative voice. This is Carol Parisi, and we have a very special guest with us today, and that's Mrs. Sharron Angle. And Sharon Angle ran as a Senate candidate against Harry Reid in Nevada in 2010. Huge Tea Party favorite, and had the opportunity to speak with Mrs. Angle, and you're going to just enjoy this show. Thank you for joining us today.
This is my pleasure, Carol. And first off, you call me Sharon, all right? And your audience, feel free to call me Sharon.
Okay, well, you are a true patriot and need to be duplicated throughout this country.
Thank you. Those are kind words.
What made you run for Senate against Harry Reid? That was a pretty big feat to do.
Like all Americans, we know the thing that resonated with Americans in Barack Obama's speech to us in 2008 was we need a change. And we need a new direction for this country because we could feel things were not going well for our country, and we responded to that when he said, there's hope for America and we should change the direction of the country. I said, yes, we can agree with that. This was not the change we had hoped for. And that's really what we've come to realize, that message might have been the right words, but it was certainly the wrong way to get there. But during that time, in 2010, we could see that Harry Reid was part of the problem in Washington, D.C., as is what we are starting to refer to as establishment politicians, because one thing we've recognized in this country is that it happens on both sides of the aisle. This is not just a Democrat thing or a Republican thing. It really, this establishment career politician is what has really begun to ruin this country. They're thinking more about the next election, not what's going on in the next generation. We're not getting statesmen anymore. We're getting true politicians, people that will say whatever they think you want to hear and then do just the opposite. And so we had seen that over and over again from Senator Harry Reid, and we knew that we needed a change not only for Nevada, but for the whole country. This is a man who was really the third most powerful man in the United States because of his position as the Senate Majority Leader. And we can watch that playing out even today. Things that we want to see get legislated in Washington, D.C. have almost come to a standstill, and who's stopping it? Harry Reid. If he doesn't want to hear a bill, if he doesn't want to discuss a bill, if he doesn't want legislation to go through, he just does not do anything. He stops it right there. And so we knew that we needed that to change. Now, there was some thought on both sides that, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. And in some cases, that would apply to me. We know who Harry Reid is. We don't know who Sharon Angle is. But thinking further down the road, they were also saying if we don't take the Senate and remove him from Senate majority leadership, the majority will still remain with the Democrat Party, and we would probably get Chuck Schumer. Is he worse than Harry Reid? So there was all kinds of thought going on as 2010 approached, and yet I knew that we needed someone who had a confidence built with the people over years of service, that they knew that they could trust me. And if I went to Washington, D.C., they could go to bed at night and know that the next morning I was going to vote the way that I told them to vote, that I was going to vote. And it was because of my 4 terms that I'd served in the state legislature and also the term that I had served on a school board. They knew me by my reputation, and it just seemed that that was the one thing that I could do. I could bring confidence to that office for the people.
Well, one of my big mantras is ignorance is a politician's greatest ally. They rely on it, they count on it, they like apathy because This way they can do the things that they do. A good example would be a lot of people are upset with Quinn in Illinois with some of the decisions that he's made. The truth of the matter is it's not Quinn. Quinn is like the Colonel Klink of governors. You put anything in front of him, he'll read it. It's Madigan. Madigan is the kingmaker. He's been doing this for 40 years. But it's the governors that always have taken the hits.
Well, Madigan is truly part of the establishment entitlement program. He has been driving Illinois into the ground for 40 years, much like, you know, very comparable to Harry Reid in Nevada.
I think what we found with the Tea Party movement, I don't know how your audience was, but I expected 30 activists on the 15th of April in 2009. I just expected the same people to always show up, that we're always complaining. And yet, when I got there, there were 3,000, and I thought, wow.
Was it at Searchlight? Was that the one?
No,
Okay.
there were 30,000 at Searchlight. This was in Reno, Nevada. They had just said, no, actually, Carson City. They'd said, go to your Capitol steps and protest the tax increases. And so that's what we were doing there. And when 3,000 showed up, I knew something was in the air and something was different. But I say that because it was not just Nevada. It was common across the country. This thing took a hold of the people, and it was everywhere. And when we began to talk to one another, what we found was that it's happening in every state. You say there's a machine working in Illinois. Well, there's a machine in Nevada. There's a machine in California. And when we began to discuss what that establishment machinery looked like, it all had common characteristics, maybe not common people. Your names are different,
right?
But certainly the way they act in the small number of elite folks at the top who are doing governance and the way they work together. We were talking as I entered the studio about it seems like we've kind of joined ranks with the people that we say we're opposed to. We're actually becoming friendly with them, and I think that's irritating to people when they see. We used to make a joke about it when you go into court and your lawyer and the prosecutor are friends, and they're going out to lunch. Well, now we see it with our politicians, our legislators. They seem to be friendly with those people that they claim to be philosophically unaligned with, in opposition to. But
well, friendly, not in a good. I mean, it's okay to be friendly and respectful. But friendly where they're making these dangerous liaisons that are for their own benefit and not for we the people. That's the problem.
I constantly counsel when people ask me, should I run for office? And they say, how should I do this? I say, well, make sure you come home. And they laugh. What do you mean? And I say, well, you need to spend time at home. You need to be going to the Capitol and doing your business, but when you come home, it's your neighbor across the street who comes over at 10 o'clock at night and says, that bill that you're working on, well, this is what I think. When you're constantly in contact with that person who voted for you, that person who supported you during the campaign, you're going to be more beholden to that person than the fellow that you had lunch with today. Hopefully, there's going to be more of an impact. But if you're going, like many of our federal legislators do, they go and they live there. Harry Reid lives at the Ritz-Carlton. He does not live in Searchlight. He lives in Washington, D.C. And because of that, those are his friends. And that's who he's answering to. And he has a whole different idea about his representation than if every week he was going back to Searchlight and having to go down to the Nugget and drink coffee with the people that sent him.
Quite the antithesis of what our founders had visioned as a representative republic.
The joke is that the thing that ruined Washington, D.C. was air conditioning. And the reason they say that is because in the summertime, it gets so unbearable in Washington, D.C. that they had to go home just to get out of the heat and take care of their farms and their businesses. But once they had air-conditioned buildings, there was no need to go home anymore.
I don't know if
and so that just kind of ran around the year, and so now that's what we have.
Does it hold true in Nevada, though? Because it gets pretty sweltering in Nevada in the summer.
Well, we are a unique state. One I think of about 5 or 6 that have biennial legislators.
Okay.
So we only meet once every 2 years for 4 months. For 120 days, and it's a drop-dead session. You meet on a certain day in February, and on a certain day in June, you're done.
Wow.
120 days later, you're done. And you do not meet again for 2 years. So we don't have lame duck sessions. We have one session. If we were to have to call a special session, that would have to be agreed upon with the sole intent of one singular issue. You can't just say, we're going to discuss everything. You come in, you have one thing to discuss. And in 2003, we talked about, when I challenged the Constitution, problem in Nevada. And in 2003, we had 2 special sessions to discuss only taxation.
Well, we have plenty of that, and we're going to hear more about this from Sharon Angle when we come back after the break.